White Queen murmured into Alice's other ear in a voice like a cooing of a pigeon. "It would be such a treat. May I? Please do," Alice said very politely. The White Queen laughed with delight and stroked Alice's cheek. Then she began. "First the fish might be caught. That is easy. A baby, I think, could have caught it. Next the fish must be bought. That is easy. A penny, I think, should have bought it. Now cook me the fish. That is easy, and will not take more than a minute. Let it lie in a dish. That is easy, because it already is in it. Bring it here. Let me sup. It is easy to let such a dish on the table. Take the dish, cover up. Ah, that is so hard that I fear I'm unable. For it holds it like glue, holds the lid to the dish, while it lies in the middle, which is easiest to do. Undish cover the fish, or discover the riddle. Take a minute to think about it, and then guess," said the Red Queen. "Meanwhile, we'll drink to your health. Queen Alice's health," she screamed at the top of her voice, and all the guests began drinking it directly, and very queerly they managed it. Some of them put their glasses upon their heads like extinguishers and drank all that trickled down their faces. Others upset the decanters and drank the wine as it ran off the ledges of the table. The three of them, who looked like kangaroos, scrambled into the dish of roast mutton and began eagerly lapping up the gravy. "Just like pigs in a trough," thought Alice. "You ought to return thanks in a neat speech," the Queen said, frowning at Alice as she spoke. We must support you, you know," the White Queen whispered as Alice got up to do it, very obediently, but a little frightened. "Thank you very much," she whispered in reply. "But I can do quite well without." That wouldn't be at all the thing," the Queen said very decidedly, so Alice tried to submit to be with a good grace. "And they did push so," she said afterwards when she was telling her sister the history of the feast. "You would have thought they wanted to squeeze me flat." In fact, it was rather difficult for her to keep in her place while she made her speech, and two queens pushed her so, one on each side, that they nearly lifted her up into the air. "I rise to return thanks," Alice began, and she really did rise as she spoke, several inches, but she got hold of the edge of the table and managed to pull herself down. "Take care of yourself," screamed the White Queen, seizing Alice's hair with both hands. "Something's going to happen." And then, as Alice afterward described it, all sorts of things happened at once. The candles all grew up to the ceiling, looking something like a bed of roses with fireworks at the top. As to the bottles, they each took a pair of plates, which they hastily fitted on as wings, and so, with forks for legs, went fluttering about in all directions, and very like birds, they look, Alice thought to herself, as well as she could, in the dreadful confusion that was to begin. At this moment, she heard a hoarse laugh at her, and turned to see what was the matter with the White Queen, but instead of the Queen, there was a leg of mutton sitting in the chair. "Here I am!" cried a voice from the soup tureen, and Alice turned again, just in time to see the Queen's broad, good-natured face grinning at her for a moment over the edge of the tureen, before she disappeared into the soup. There was not a moment to be lost. Already several of the guests were lying down in the dishes, and the soup ladle was walking up the table towards Alice's chair and beckoning to her impatiently to get out of the way. "I can't stand this any longer," she cried as she jumped and seized the tablecloth with both hands. One good pull, and plates and dishes and gas and candles came crashing down together in a heap on the floor. "And as for you," she went on, turning fiercely upon the Red Queen, whom she considered as the cause of all the mischief, but the Queen was no longer at her side. She had suddenly dwindled down to the size of a little doll, and was now on the table, merrily running around and around after her own shawl, which was trailing behind her. At any other time, Alice would have felt surprised at this, but she was far too much excited and surprised at anything now. "As for you," she repeated, catching hold of the little creature in the very act of jumping over the bottle, which had just lightened up the table. "I'll shake you into a kitten, that I will."